Hi, my name is Ryan. Today I'd like to talk about the best jigsaw puzzle of 2018, Return of the Obra Dinn. I know what you're thinking. This is quite clearly not a jigsaw puzzle, you eat it. And you would be correct. It is not a jigsaw puzzle, but there are enough similarities between the two that it's worth taking a look. It might be difficult to understand how I've come to that conclusion from looking at these few screens, so let me briefly explain what the game is. You play as an insurance investigator. A ship called the Obra Dinn, previously declared lost at sea, has drifted back into port, missing all of its crew. Clambering aboard with a special compass that allows you to experience the last 5 to 10 seconds of a person's life, you must uncover the fates of the 60 lost crew members of the Obra Dinn. To do this, you have a book with the crew manifest, a picture of all the crew, and a series of chapters which chronicle particular events on the ship. After exploring a collection of scenes, players are led to inputting details about the crew members and how they died. There's a vast array of options to select which prevents players from wildly guessing, and the game will only confirm correct guesses in groups of 3. It's a very interesting way of solving a puzzle, and the fascinating thing about Return of the Obra Dinn is what separates it from most video games out there. It is one big puzzle. Take a look at these games. You might know them well. Some of them, like Portal, are hugely influential and popular puzzle games. Some of them, like Antichamber and Gorogoa, are smaller indie hits. And there's something that ties a lot of them together. They contain a multitude of individual puzzles. The ways in which we are to solve these puzzles might stay the same, but they are separated into lots of individual bite-sized levels. It's not a startling observation. Video games have followed these kinds of structures for decades. What may have started as a technical restriction has come to embody the form of the medium, and it has been used and framed in lots of different ways. Sometimes games pace and frame their stories like books, fitting their individual levels inside a familiar structure that ties these disparate levels together. Return of the Obra Dinn presents its story inside this book-like form, but the puzzle of the Obra Dinn doesn't look anything like the other video games. It looks like this. Glorious, isn't it? It's a 1,000-piece jigsaw puzzle. Each piece, barring the edges, connects to 4 other pieces. It's an interconnected web of cats, and it's driven me mad for the past week. But in going through both Return of the Obra Dinn and this jigsaw puzzle, I've observed some similarities. Every piece of the jigsaw and every piece of the Obra Dinn contributes to a larger whole, a story that ties it all together. The jigsaw shows us a picture of all of these cats, whilst the Obra Dinn tells the story of murder, betrayal, and wild beasts. The two are not entirely dissimilar. Though we can isolate certain chapters on the Obra Dinn and work on separate parts of the jigsaw puzzle, it all works towards illuminating the greater picture. Both puzzles involve groups of relationships. We can separate out a lot of jigsaw pieces based on their colours and lines. For instance, take all of these orange hair-like pieces. With nothing else like it in the puzzle, we can compile all of these orange pieces together as part of the ginger cats group. In Obra Dinn, nationality is combined with language and accent to give clues to the identity of people. For example, take this group of card players in this scene. One of them is speaking Russian to another. From this, we might deduce that he wouldn't say something in Russian if the other player couldn't understand it. From this, we can confidently assert that these gentlemen are the 3 Russian crew members as indicated in the manifest. We can also group people together through their role in the ship and the uniform they might be wearing, from the officers to the 3 midshipmen. There's a lot of pieces here. Far too much information to take in all at once. It would be chaotic to simply stare into the abyss of information and expect to progress. What this abyss requires is to look for something very specific, like all of the edge pieces, or pieces of a very specific pattern. This is what helps grouping relative information together. Return of the Obra Dinn understands this and provides some of this information to players. The magic book will take a record of every memory an individual was present in, making it easier to find the information you might be looking for. When you know you're looking for gold, it makes it easier to identify that telltale glimmer. Likewise on the Obra Dinn, when you know you're looking for a Scottish accent, it makes it easier to find one amid the menagerie of accents aboard the ship. A lot of different puzzles use the process of elimination, and these two are no different. But because each individual piece is part of a greater whole, each correct assertion made or pieces connected narrows down that process. Because these pieces have a blank side, they can only belong on the edge of the board. This makes it a lot easier to identify what they relate to. Likewise on the Obra Dinn, when we trace this line that has sadly ended this poor man's life, we can eliminate all the other shooters from having done the deed. All that's left to figure out is who this guy is. This is just a few ways that Return of the Obra Dinn operates like a jigsaw puzzle, but it can be viewed and analysed in so many different ways. Whilst video games can frame their puzzles in a variety of ways, Return of the Obra Dinn feels different because of these points, because each piece contributes to a greater whole. This grand holistic structure is similar to that of 2015's Her Story. That they aren't separated into lots of individual puzzles is what makes both games so good, and what makes Return of the Obra Dinn my favourite game of 2018. Thank you so much for watching. If you'd like to watch my last video on order and chaos in the board game Dream On, then click on the link in the video. If you'd like to be notified when my next video releases, then click on the subscribe button.